Hello everyone. Welcome back to Reddit Night, your favorite Reddit reading channel. Today we are back on our /AskReddit with some more scary stories. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Serious, what is the creepiest strangest scariest experience you ever had in your life? Also, another one. A few years ago I was walking my friend home from the pub. She lived further away than me, but she was significantly drunker and I didn't want her to walk by herself in the dark. A guy we both knew was at the pub too, and we'd known him for ages, been to school together, etc. But we definitely weren't close. He was one of those really weird kids, but not in a lovable quirky goofball kind of way, if that makes sense. Like scary weird. Anyway, he tagged along with us for the walk home, and it was fine because we'd been having a laugh with him all night and he genuinely seemed very different to how he had been in school. However, once we'd reached my friend's house and dropped her off, his tone changed. He started telling me about how if his future girlfriend ever cheated on him, he would kill her, and I can't explain exactly how, but from his tone and demeanor and everything I didn't doubt that for a second. He then proceeded to tell me that if he wanted to, he could easily kill me right now, and dispose of the body in a way that no one would ever find me. All this was being said whilst we were walking down a mile-long pitch-black country road in the middle of nowhere, no streetlights, no houses near the road, literally no one else around. Got lost on a 14-mile hike because of a faded sign and poorly marked branching trails. It wasn't a high-traffic hiking trail since it was mid-July and hit temperatures of 105 F at high noon. We left early in the morning to avoid the afternoon heat, but getting lost put us 4 miles off track, so once we got back to the right trail it was perilously close to noon on a moderately difficult return trail. My friend and I had enough water for the normal trail length, but nowhere near for the extra time spent out in the extreme heat. Heat exhaustion swiftly set in and our water went quickly. We would move from shaded spot to shaded spot when we could, but there was little tree cover for the last 7 miles. Eventually it got so bad I collapsed in a semi-fetid pool of standing water to cool off as best as I could. I remember sitting there, nauseous, shaking and barely able to stand, thinking we were going to die out there because we read the wrong trail sign and got off course. Thankfully, a group came down the trail, saw us and immediately offered water and assistance to get us the last couple miles out and back to our vehicle. What was supposed to be a 4-hour hike turned into 10, I lost 13 pounds, my feet were covered in blisters and sores, and I was so weak I couldn't get out of bed for days. So yeah, that was terrifying. Strange rather than scary, 16 years ago I got pregnant at about the same time as my Sil. In my country the first ultrasound scan you have is at about 12 to 14 weeks-ish to check for physical abnormalities and the possibility of Down syndrome. It's not uncommon to find out the sex then too. My Sil was about 3 months further along than I was and had found out they were having a boy. I wanted a girl. 3 weeks before my scan was due my partner and I were looking at a house to buy. It was an old villa with a front door and hallway that led straight down to a lounge, kitchen and dining room that went across the top, kind of a T-shape. The bedrooms were off the hallway. My partner and the real estate agent were in one of the bedrooms. I was standing in the lounge to one side of the hallway. I could see the doorway but I couldn't see up the hallway. I could hear them talking. It was midday on a Saturday. I was well rested and slightly hungry. Felt totally normal. There were only the 3 of us in the house. Then all of a sudden I was standing a few meters to my right looking straight up the hallway where 2 floppy-haired brunette toddlers were running giggling towards me. They were wearing messy play kind of clothes and I got the impression they were going to run past me and through the kitchen behind me into the backyard. I stared at them thinking this must be my kid and their cousin. Trying to figure out which was the boy so I could see what sex the other kid was. It was surreal, but I wasn't frightened. It only lasted a few seconds and then I was suddenly back where I had been standing, to the side of the hallway instead of looking up it. There were no toddlers and partner and real estate agent started walking down the hallway. So long story short we ended up buying that house. And at my scan I found out we were having twins. Who grew into 2 floppy-haired brunette toddlers. I've posted about this before, but what the hell? When I was in college, I worked at a little gas station in the middle of nowhere, Alabama that was open pretty late. It was a great job because after 10, we really had no one that came in so I could turn on music and work on my homework. One night, a little after midnight, I was getting ready to count down the register and pack up my things. I went to the back office, proceeded to start counting money when I noticed a heavyset guy standing at the counter, looking at the wall of cigarettes behind it. I figured I must have forgotten to lock the door, so I walk out to apologize, only to find that no one is there. I figure maybe the camera was not working so I shrugged it off after I walked around the store. I also checked the door and it wasn't locked, so I locked it. I went back to the office, nothing on the camera screen, so I go back to counting down. A few minutes later, I look up at the screen again and dude is still there, but now he is standing with his back to the camera pressed up against the beer fridge. I walk back out, now firmly shitting bricks as I was a tiny woman and far away from literally everything and everyone. No one was there. I was terrified, grabbed the can of wasp spray, and searched literally every inch of the store while trying to call my boyfriend at the time to drive out there. He was sadly too drunk to do so and said, "You're probably fine." Before hanging up, I summoned the remaining courage that I had and went back to the office, locking the door behind me as I did before I hurried through counting everything again. Looking back up at the screen one more time, I saw the same dude, standing there and looking at the office door where I was. He was perfectly still, not moving but just standing there. I quickly finished counting the money down, threw it in the safe, and pretty much ran out of the store, not shutting off the lights behind me. The next morning, probably about 4 a.m., I was called by my boss asking me to open the store because he had a family emergency. The extra money was nice, so I agreed but asked if I could bring my friend with me since it would only be for an hour or two, and I told him what had happened the night before. "Oh, you saw him, huh?" "Yeah, go ahead. He scares me too." I always think about this. To this day. 5 to 6 years ago, my husband would wake up way earlier than me, come to my side of the bed and give me a kiss before he left. Every day, just walk around to my side, kiss me, tell me he loved me and say goodbye. Never missed a day. Then I would go back to sleep for another hour before getting up for work. He always did this in the dark so as not to wake me or turn on the lights. This is so hard to explain, but one day he did this. Said goodbye, and I went back to sleep. I heard the door close and closed my eyes. Felt like maybe 10 to 15 minutes passed, and I felt like someone was walking towards the bed. I thought, maybe he forgot something, came back and wanted to say goodbye. Or maybe he never left and I dreamed that. Felt like a dark shadow form sat on the bed, like he normally did, but something didn't feel right. I felt like the shadow wanted me to acknowledge it. But I didn't. It didn't say anything, so I rolled to the other side of the bed and ran into the living room. Turned all the lights on. The doors were locked. My husband had definitely left. It was so early in the AM, and still dark. Why it freaked me out, and I know I was awake. After that I told him to turn on my lamp when he kissed me goodbye. Never ever leave me in the dark again. To this day. It's hard to explain and doesn't sound scary when I type it out, but it really freaked me out. So I was sitting at home alone one evening when my phone started buzzing because of an incoming call. I reached out for it, and when I looked at the screen, I was very confused. The caller ID was that of my own number. In that split second, I had just assumed it was a glitch and canceled the call. Seconds later, the same thing happened. I canceled the call once more. When the same thing happened the third time, I felt kind of freaked out. But I plucked up my courage to answer the call. After I said hello, there was nothing but silence. Then I heard some labored breathing noises, almost like a whisper, on the other end. That did it for me. I was so freaked out then, I just hung up. Not the creepiest or scariest, but certainly one of the strangest. My ex and I lived in apartments for years. She would always make enemies and would go out her way to hurt them. This escalated to hiring a private investigator to dig into a janitor's past and staging a harassment scene to get him fired. Since our bridges were toasty at that place, I figured a house would be better, no one to become enemies with. Except me. Things got bad fast, calling me names, screaming at me, throwing things. Weird conversations where she would start talking for me, so I just became a spectator. She switched from Christianity to Wiccan, and started drawing pentagrams with her blood outside, and insinuating I shouldn't fall asleep because she needed another sacrifice. She would casually talk about killing herself, and would remind me if I called the cops. She was a small, female, professional actor and I was a large, athletic man. Her threats kept getting more explicit and I was sleeping in a room by myself, propping chairs under the doorknob just in case, but jumping awake in panic at the smallest creak. Eventually I realized what an idiot I was and I left. I had nightmares for months of being hunted by a mountain lion/dinosaur/giant spider and would wake up screaming. My room has a deadbolt on it and if in traveling I sleep in my own room with a chair under the doorknob. I just really love being able to sleep without worrying about getting stabbed. Scary/strange, when I was around 10 or 11 we lived in this old pier and beam house originally built in the 40s. I loved that house, it had a large detached garage and a huge backyard. But the problem was I would have these horrendous nightmares. That was until I taught myself how to lucid dream. Before anyone says anything about how did a 10-year-old learn how to lucid dream, it wasn't on purpose. I just realized I was in a dream and night by night, slowly started figuring out how to mess around in them. After I figured out how to control my dreams, the nightmares still came, but I would change the dream, like scare off the Trex chasing me, etc. I kept changing my dreams night after night. But then, I started seeing things in the house, while I was awake. The first was a low glowing figure, the second was a white hand that thrust out at me as I was walking to the hallway and stopped me from going in my room, but the third was two beings in the corners of my ceiling. They were there for a while. One light and one dark, they seemed like they were having a conversation with each other in whispers that I either couldn't hear, or understand. As a grown adult now, I always just thought I had a ridiculous imagination, which I did, but the thing is, I still remember those experiences, in vivid detail. Far beyond what an imagination should be able to produce. I also don't dream anymore, and if I do, I don't remember them. I stopped dreaming after we left that house. I found out about 10 years ago that the detached garage used to be a church. My mom wouldn't tell me the type of church, but I had that feeling that this wasn't your run-of-the-mill Southern Baptist church. To this day, I still wonder if it was just my imagination or if I saw something no one else could. That's it for today. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.